Hey guys, really great podcast today. Excited to have my brother Mitchell Sneed on the podcast today. We talked about a lot of things, everything from fantasy football to some scientific advancements that are directly affecting his life and my life by proxy. So really interesting podcast. I hope you enjoy it. And for those of you who haven't met Mitchell, my brother, well, after this podcast, now you have. Enjoy. I'm a simple man.
I'm a simple man. Don't wanna complicate ya. Complicate ya.
Turn it up. You turned up.
I think I like the other mic better.
The other mic is way better, but
sounded
this
better.
is the only one that is going to record us. So, welcome everybody to the League of Ordinary Gentlemen podcast. Today's guest is my own flesh and blood, Mitchell PC Sneed.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, it's true. We don't look alike. We are recording out of the U.S. headquarters today in downtown Greenville, in the conference room, sharing a couple beers. Well, I have a beer. Captain Lawrence's Brewing Company, Orbital Tilt IPA. I have no idea where this is from. And what do you have?
Not your father's root beer.
Alcoholic root beer. Fantastic.
Yeah. Tastes like root beer with a little bit of booze in it.
Cheers. A lot of you guys have never met my brother Mitchell, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to introduce him to you. We go way back.
A few years.
For your entire life.
Yeah.
Most of mine.
Yeah.
I kind of drug you kicking and screaming into the fantasy. No, I didn't drag you. I dragged you kicking and screaming into the fantasy football world.
Mm-hmm. How's that working out for you?
Yeah, well, not great. You put a whooping on pretty much everybody this year. So you were one of the people that did auto drafting.
Yes.
And why did you do auto drafting? Would you like to share that with the class?
Partially forgetting and partial laziness.
Oh, I thought it was just all forgetting. So after you remembered,
I forgot. I remembered. It was halfway through.
Wait a second. So after you remembered about the draft,
yes,
you decided to still do auto draft because of laziness.
Well,
this is what you're telling me.
It started. Yes. Yeah.
It has already started.
I had stuff to do.
Yeah. What did you do?
I don't know, really.
So you had never done fantasy football until I talked you into doing it. Mm-hmm. What was your perception of fantasy football before you dived in, and what is it now?
I didn't really. I mean, it's just
didn't really have an opinion on it.
I didn't have an opinion. Yeah, I mean, what did they say? It was Dungeons and Dragons for people who beat up people that play Dungeons and Dragons.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I've never been much of a football fan.
Yeah.
I don't keep up with it. I don't watch it.
Yeah.
But you know,
which
seems like something to talk about.
Which is interesting because, well, I guess I'm the biggest sports fan in the family, but
yeah,
I feel like
sure.
I got that from Dad. Or at least I got the Niners stuff from Dad.
For sure. Yeah.
But he's completely gone off. So really, it's he and I that enjoy football.
Right.
And then you and our other brother Joe and Neela, our sister Neela, Mom. Mm-hmm. Nobody else really watches it. No interest. But you're a big gamer though, so I felt like fantasy football has that a little bit of that gaming aspect to it.
Yeah. It's really very in depth, but
yeah.
So
have you been enjoying? So you're winning this year, which is so getting back to the auto draft thing. Pretty much everybody that auto drafted is now starting to win. I think, except for I think Jared Bands is still losing. Sorry, bud. But so now that you're winning, how do you feel about it? Are you enjoying it? Do you like fantasy football? Like, what are your perceptions?
Winning's fun.
Yep.
But no, I mean, my perceptions haven't changed too much, honestly. It's fun to check in. I do check in more often now
Yeah.
that I'm doing better.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more invested.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, maybe next year I'll even be more into it. I don't know.
Cool. So, tell since people haven't met you, I think you've met a few people. You've probably met Eric Harris when he's been in town. I think you actually been out to their property before in Ohio.
Ohio?
Yeah. Didn't you go out there one year?
Was it? Did you have chickens?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they have
Yeah,
chickens.
I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I met him.
Their chickens lay
That's
blue.
good.
Their chickens lay blue eggs. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Oh.
That's
Well, if
pretty
you'd
cool,
listened
though.
to episode 3, you would have known that.
So that's how you find out I don't listen to them.
Yeah, ask questions.
I listened to the first one and I started the last one.
Okay, the last one with
Yeah.
Elliot Humphrey in Germany.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Pretty
Pretty sure he's a spy.
really?
Have you listened? How much have you
I
listened
didn't get
to?
that far.
You didn't get that far?
I didn't
Okay.
get that far.
So I started
Spy for
asking him
who?
questions.
Spy for us?
I think for us.
Or
Yeah.
against us?
I'm assuming it's for us. He works for the works for the Air Force, or he's in the Air Force.
Okay.
I started asking him some questions about like what he does, and he's like, "Oh, I'm in relations with other countries and stuff." And I was like, "Oh, it sounds like you're a spy." And he was like, "Oh no, those people are brave." And I was like, "Well, that sounds something like a spy would say." And then later on, he's like, he was recommending a book. And I said, "What books or what?" He said, "I'd like to recommend something I'm reading." I was like, "With that?" He's like, "It's a book on persuasion." And he's like, "It ties in well with my job." I was like, "Okay, like this guy," but we can't talk about that, so don't tell anybody.
Okay. Yeah.
Don't tell anybody what I
Cut
said.
this part out.
Yep, cut it out.
Cut it out. Tag it.
Yep, cutting it out. So tell us about yourself. Puppies, long walks on the beach. What are you into?
I don't have either of those.
No. Oh.
No.
Well played. Give everybody a little bio. I'm gonna ask you 3 questions.
Okay.
Where did you come from?
Okay.
Where are you going?
I don't like that one.
What have you learned?
What have I learned?
Yeah.
Do I have to answer them in order?
Just proliferate. Go ahead.
Okay, proliferate.
hmm
I mean, I was born here in Greenville,
South Carolina.
South Carolina.
hmm
I'm here right now,
Yep.
and there was some stuff that happened in between there. Lived in Ohio for a little while.
Yeah, we have to look up the definition of proliferate.
Yeah. I'm going to do that right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Proliferate. It's a rapid increase of numbers. Pontificate is probably the word I was looking for. Pontificate. All right, so we're only half of one beer deep, and I don't know the meaning of words anymore. Proliferate, it has to do with the expansion of numbers rapidly. So do not proliferate on your life experiences.
Okay.
I was going to say pontificate. Now, pontificate means to express one's opinions in a way considered annoyingly pompous or dogmatic. So, I mean, you can go that route if you want.
Okay.
But maybe we can come up with something different. Elaborate. That's probably it's involving many careful arranged parts or details, detailed, complicated in design, planning. Muse is a rock band.
I'm good with just looking up definitions for like the next.
You want to just look up
20 minutes?
definitions of
Yeah, I'm
words?
fine with that.
All right.
It's gonna be a lot more interesting. A dictionary.
We'd
reading
like
a
to
dictionary.
crowdsource.
It's gonna be a lot more interesting than my life story.
I doubt that. We'd like to crowdsource some definitions for something having to do with talking about one's life in detailed, but not having pre-planned it, just kind of off the cuff. If you could off the cuff walk through kind of what brought you to where you are today, what you do for a living, what opportunities and you have in your life, challenges you have in your life, go for it.
It's very broad, wide. Give me a lot of groundwork. With
I mean, we got 29 years to cover, so.
Not yet. So hey, my birthday's November 3rd. 29 days away, 30 days away.
Is it really? Yeah.
What's the math?
Today's
on
the
that?
4th.
Math's hard.
There's 31 days.
31 days. Cut this part out.
Yeah, 28 days away. I have no idea. 20.
So yeah, I was born in Greenville. We moved to Ohio.
Uh-huh.
And
How old were you when we moved? I was 17. You were 10?
I would have been 9.
I was 16.
Yeah, I would have turned 10 in November.
Yeah, we moved to
So,
Ohio because our dad
yeah.
became a pastor and took the pastorate of a church in Tip City, Ohio.
Tip City, Ohio.
On Kessler Frederick Road, which that would have been 2000, the year 2000. Anyways, you moved to Ohio. What happened in Ohio?
Well, lived there for a while. Went to school.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I spent my teenage years.
Mm-hmm.
Little bit of community college up there. That's about it.
Yeah.
You know, moved back down here in 2012.
Nice.
The year the world ended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Came to an end December 21st,
Yep. Just 6 months before it all ended.
2012.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. The Mayan calendar proved to be quite problematic.
Yeah.
Well, so there's a lot of theories out there that we're actually living in a simulation.
Yeah.
From aliens.
Right.
So that seems to have
It's
some merit.
creationism for people who doesn't believe in creationism.
Yes, exactly.
So,
Yes. Aliens are the gods for people who don't believe in God,
right.
who came down and started life on Earth because they're smart aliens and they're more advanced than us.
Yes.
But it couldn't have been, like, it would be absurd to think that God would do that. But aliens probably
Aliens
did.
don't hold you accountable.
Oh, wow, getting deep. That's good.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. All right, so I want to talk about something that I'm really excited about, and it's a spinal treatment that you've been getting recently called Spinraza.
Yeah.
Can you talk through us about what that is and why you need that?
Well, I don't know all of the technical and scientific terms for it, but basically there are proteins your spine makes, and my body does not make those proteins, and they cannot be synthesized.
Right.
So,
And these are proteins in your spinal column that cause muscle growth?
muscle growth,
Yeah.
and it is what allows you to build muscle, just any sort of strength gains or anything like that.
And you
So-
were born without these proteins in your spinal column.
Yeah.
But so you were able to develop a certain amount of muscles, but once you got to a certain age or a certain amount of muscle mass, your body quit producing new muscle or growing muscle. Is that correct?
Pretty much, yeah. So essentially, what this medicine does, it's injected into the spine, into the base of the spine,
Mm-hmm.
and
Well,
It-
let's dig before we
Okay.
get into that. Let's dig into a little bit. So, if you haven't met Mitchell before, you wouldn't know just by listening to him. But since the age of 5, or maybe a little older, age of 6,
I got
7,
diagnosed at 3.
you got diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy,
Yes.
type 2, at age 3, but you've been bound to a wheelchair since when? Age? I mean,
Well,
you were kind of in
I
and out
broke-
up until you're 5. You broke your leg when you were 8.
I used walker and things like that, a little 3-wheeled scooter.
Mm-hmm. Until you were almost 8 years old, right?
Yeah, and then I broke a leg.
Yeah, you fell and broke your leg.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, so my muscles atrophied, and I wasn't able to rebuild that muscle.
To get that leg strength back.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So wheelchair bound since age 8, but you kind of have defied some odds or some statistics, right? I think when you were first diagnosed, they said you wouldn't live past the age of 5 or 6, right?
Right.
And then they said maybe not past the age of a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're 29 years old,
Right.
and in some respects, you're as healthy as you've ever been.
Yeah.
In some respects, and just recently, just in the last couple of years, there's been a development of a drug called Spinraza. Well, I don't know if it's a drug. It's
Yeah. It would be.
Is it a drug? It's
Yeah,
classified
it's
as
a
a drug.
drug, yeah.
Okay. So called Spinraza that they can inject into your spine. And essentially the idea is that this can recreate some of the body's ability to regain muscle. So this is like Clark Kent, Christopher Reeves. Is that who was Superman?
Yeah, Christopher Reeves.
Christopher Reeves. He broke his neck when he fell off the horse, quadriplegic. There was a big Super Bowl commercial they did 10, 15 years ago. It must have been more than 15 years ago because it was before he died, where they had made these advancements in medicine, and he got up out of his wheelchair and started walking, right? It was computer generated, but they said they were on this pathway to do this. And now through drugs like Spinraza that are pointed directly into your spinal column, there's a possibility that some of that's actually going to start happening. And you went through a year-long testing, right, to get approved for this drug, and have just recently...
It's been a little bit more than a year.
A little bit more than a year?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, tell me about that. Tell me about that story, about how you heard about this and where you're at with it now.
It popped up out of nowhere, the drug. Everybody was kind of surprised about it in the SMA community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they had been testing it on just infants.
Okay. And I'm assuming they started with lab rats before that, right?
Oh,
they were like,
could have. I don't know. I think
they were like, "Hey, this is cool. Let's grab some babies."
Just grabbing babies, yeah.
Grabbing babies.
Just grabbing babies.
Yeah. Well, maybe they did. I don't know. People have been disappearing.
So, but apparently that worked. So, however you gotta get stuff done.
Yeah. And they were seeing improvements from children that were born with SMA.
Yeah, and they were seeing such promising results that they kind of fast-tracked the drug.
Oh, wow.
To being, So they actually approved it for adults before they had tested it on adults, which is interesting. Oh. So I could be getting mutant powers. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
I guess maybe because they had tested it on humans. Like it wasn't like they went straight from
exactly.
Puppies to...
I guess, well, it was still a surprise from what I understand. Normally there would be some more clinical trials on adults, but...
Okay.
Whatever it is, they decided to fast-track it.
Okay.
So,
and what were the improvements that they saw in the babies that they were so sure?
Well, they were just seeing a general increase in strength. They were hitting a more regular benchmark to, what children would normally be at a certain stage.
Yeah.
Say they hit 2 years old, 3 years old.
Yeah.
They were seeing these children that would normally be weak or dying at that age being like normal children without SMA.
Yeah.
So
they went from... I think I read a story where there was a baby that was born with SMA, and I don't remember how old they were. They had to be old because they noticed the symptoms. And I think by they did Spinraza at 18 months or 2 years. So the child was born with SMA. When it got to 8 months, they noticed the baby wasn't rolling over or sitting up, could never sit up. And at 18 months, they did the Spinraza treatment, and the baby started sitting up and crawling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these children that would normally be very sick or dying or weak were just normal kids. So it's a little late to completely reverse it. So what this does is essentially, it reverses it to an extent.
In somebody that's your age?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
But so the main benefit for me, though, is it will drastically slow down the progress.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be doing the same things at 35 as at 30.
So where some of the motor functions in your hands, where you have difficulty with motor functions in your fingers and that kind of thing, that kind of stuff can improve. Is that the idea?
Yeah. So it slows down the progression of the disease.
Yeah.
So a lot of people that are in their 30s, they start to become nearly paralyzed.
Yeah.
They're not able to lift their arms up at all. I still have some movement. I can type and things like that.
Yeah.
So hopefully it will allow me to keep that and possibly improve on that.
Yeah. And you just had your first... So you went through a little over a year of getting pre-approved. Mm-hmm. Then you had to have surgery because the way your spine was shaped, or a previous surgery you'd had on your spine was causing a problem where they couldn't get to your spinal column to inject.
Right.
So had to have a surgery to drill a hole through your spine, so they'd have an injection site to put this drug in. And you had your first treatment last Friday.
Yeah.
So you have treatment every 2 weeks for how long?
My next one will be so it will be 2 weeks. I will have my second injection. Mm-hmm. So that's actually a week from today.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 weeks after that, I'll have another one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll have another injection a month after that one. And then after that, it'll be 4 months for...
Before your next one.
Yeah.
And then
So
how many
it'll be
is
indefinite.
this an indefinite? Okay, indefinite injections
Yeah,
after
until
that.
they find something better, which it's very possible they will.
At the speed that this is
Yeah.
advancing, there's a lot of positive prognosis,
Right.
right? A lot of optimism around the drug. So just I think that's fascinating. It's incredible. It's stuff that
Yeah.
we thought was just science fiction
Oh, yeah, I didn't expect
when
it
we
at
were
all.
kids, right?
Yeah.
15 years ago.
Yep.
Longer than that, and now all of a sudden it's there, and you just got your first treatment of this quote unquote scientific miracle drug.
Yeah. Super soldier drug?
Super. Oh no!
It's the next one.
You're gonna become a super soldier and beat the crap out of me for all the times I tortured you as a child.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, well,
At least
I
once.
digress.
So-
At least once. Oh man, that's cool. I'm super excited about it. It's fascinating. So the other thing is, you have your second injection coming up in a week, right?
Yep.
On October 11th.
Yep.
Which might hinder some plans of ours, so I'm a little disappointed about this.
I am too, actually. It's kind of 50-50 on what I want to do.
Yeah. So Mitchell and I are supposed to go see Bill Burr live in Asheville, North Carolina on October 11th. And Mitchell has a Spinraza injection scheduled for Friday, so I guess the question is,
Dadgum life-changing treatments.
Where do your priorities lie? I mean, Bill Burr with your brother, or chance to walk.
Laughter's the best medicine. So
That's true. That's true. How is Spinraza better than laughter? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. They just gotta see if I can inject some of that comedy into my spine.
Oh man, that's funny. So I'm gonna put an invite out there. If anybody wants to, if Mitchell can't make it to the Bill Burr performance on Friday night, October 11th, which is still to be determined,
Right.
I'm gonna put an open invite out there if anybody wants to drive down to Asheville next week and get a ticket for Bill Burr's new tour. This is all new material by Bill Burr, by the way. It's his special was released a month ago, and this is all new material that no one's heard or has not been on his special before. So if you're a Bill Burr fan or a stand-up comedy fan, this is a big deal.
Do we know how new this tour is? Like,
I think
what show number this is?
He tours. So his process is interesting. He tours all the time,
Yeah.
and when he feels like he's got a great set, he records a special, but just keeps going. So there actually may be components that are still in there, but he's developing new
wondering.
stuff. It's kind of a revolving door. I don't know if he totally shuts down and starts over or how that works, but it's interesting. So based on so let's get back to sports.
Okay.
What's your record? 3-1?
I can check.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. How do you see yourself doing this weekend? Who are you playing this weekend?
It's gonna be a close one. I'm playing Team Oranje.
Oranje.
Oranje?
Yeah.
It's not Oranje.
It's oh, Matt, I am so sorry. I'm gonna obliterate this. It's somewhere in the Netherlands, Norway.
Okay.
Might be Poland, which is not in the Netherlands.
Definitely thought it was
gosh.
Mexico.
Oranje, Team Oranje, it has to do with the national team from a country that he spent many years in. He might have actually grown up there. He was a missionary. And I want to say it might be the national team of the Netherlands, the colors of the Netherlands. I know as much about this as I do the word proliferate.
Okay.
But that's their national colors, and Oranje is the term.
That's a color.
Yeah, so Matt Murphy was the first interview. Did you listen to that one?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so that's who you're playing against this week.
Okay.
Yeah. Matt, you're playing against my brother. So what's the projected score?
I think it's like 128 to 124.
On your side or
I think
Matt's?
so.
All right. So that'll be one to watch.
He's currently winning. So
Nice.
as of 5:06.
Oh, yeah. So he is projected 123. You're projected 128. He played Disley for Seattle, which is a good play. Oh, you have Cooper Kupp went for 22.2 points. He had Disley, LA Rams defense, and Greg Zuerlein as the kicker, who missed the game-winning field goal last night. So it's going to be a close matchup. Solid, man. All right, so the way that we wrap up the podcast, a little game we call 3M. All right?
Okay.
Movie, music, media.
Okay.
Give us your top selection for each category. Top movie at the moment.
Based on anything?
Based on anything. Either something new that you're into or all time, something that you can recommend to everybody else to pay attention to. And media is kind of a catch-all for everything else. Whether that's audio or physical media, something like that.
I should have been listening to this podcast. I had some time to think about that.
Movie recommendation.
John Wick 3.
Yes!
It's the best movie I've seen in like the past year.
Yes. It's so good.
I haven't watched a whole lot of movies, not as many as I normally do.
Yeah.
But if you want a quality action movie
Yeah.
and a series that just each movie gets better than the last,
Yeah.
John Wick.
Oh, so good.
John Wick
So
3.
let's pause on that for a minute.
Okay.
John Wick, like you would think, would just be a terrible movie. It's literally Keanu Reeves walking around shooting people.
Yeah.
Which is or defending himself. It's the basic plot.
Right.
These 1, 2, and 3, like John Wick 1, 2, and 3, are some of the best movies I've ever seen, and they get better with each one. I think John Wick 3 is better than 2. 2 is better than 1, and they all just blow my mind every time. Fantastic! I highly recommend them.
Yeah, I mean they keep the story simple.
Elliot Humphrey will
straightforward.
like it because he's a spy.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, sorry. You keep the
I
story.
mean,
Go.
he's-
You were
he's-
about
he's,
to. You were about to proliferate
on
Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves.
They keep it simple. Yeah.
Simple story.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be anything without the fight
Yeah.
choreography.
Yeah.
So I think that's really the key. And
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves doing all his own stunts and
That's what makes it
pushing the
intriguing.
limits constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you don't watch the movies, just watch clips of him training for the movies.
Mm.
That's just
Yeah.
as impressive,
Yeah.
more impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Cool.
John
All right.
Wick 3.
Music.
Music.
It can be Dropkick Murphys if you want. That's
Dropkick
fine.
Murphys?
Nobody's gonna hate
That's a
on that.
callback from
That's
that was-
old school.
That was 2007. That's a lot.
Number one
Murphys.
Dropkick Murphy fan right here, Mitchell Sneed.
I suppose.
Yeah,
I
potentially.
couldn't name their last 5 albums, but
Neither can anybody else.
shipping up to bot, they couldn't. They're too wasted.
Yeah, they couldn't.
Music. I just lost Spotify. I mean, I just have it on mix, so it's just I don't even know what I'm listening to.
Yeah. Well, what do you
Just
have a
mix
category
of
for your mix?
Indie folk alternative crap.
So indie folk alternative mix on Spotify.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get some good stuff in there. You get
Yeah,
some
you
good
do get
variety
some good stuff, but
for sure.
yeah, I wish I had a better answer for that.
It's all good. It's perfect.
Lo-fi is some cool stuff. Yeah.
What is lo-fi?
Lo-fi, so it is a digital mix of music where they put filters on the music to make it sound like low quality, low fidelity music.
Yeah.
And they
Oh,
usually,
interesting.
Yeah, they usually take clips from. They'll take a lot of quotes and things from movies and just kind of mix it in. It's very. It's very big with DJs and things. And it's just lots of different mixes.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, how would I find that?
you can just look up lo-fi. There's plenty of
lo-fi
lo-fi
on like YouTube or Spotify or something.
Yeah, and there's just it has a lot of different things. They have what they call vaporwave, which is focused on 80s music and things like that, and they just do different mixes and make it just
cool.
a low fidelity things. And
Sounds like some Steve Aoki stuff.
yeah, you would find that in the
With
same
Steve
mix.
Aoki's
Yeah.
music. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Cool. Now I introduced 3M by saying you had to give music, movies, and media, but it's either or of each. So I don't know whether media we would talk about. What are you reading these days?
I'm currently reading The Long Goodbye by Raymond Chandler.
The Long Goodbye by
The
Raymond.
Long Goodbye.
The Long Goodbye by
So
who?
it's Raymond Chandler.
Raymond Chandler.
Maybe Chandler. I don't know.
Chandler.
Who knows
Alright.
how they say it.
All right. Look it up.
It's an old, gritty detective noir book. It's very good. These old. It's almost. It's like higher than Pulp Fiction, but it's still that same feel of the. That old detective noir. You know.
The Long Goodbye by Raymond Chandler.
Yeah.
Cool. Published in 1953.
Yeah.
Nice.
So he has a whole series of those, and
Cool, man.
it's really good. It's very good.
Nice. Hey, well, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, I was forced to.
As in
no
everything,
idea.
everything I have you get involved in is
Yeah.
by force. I want you to like the
So,
things that I like, Mitchell.
I
I want you- Hey, you're more
enjoy it.
intellectual than I am. That's fine.
Oh.
Cool. Well, thanks for
All right.
coming on, man.
yeah. Thanks for having me.
In honor of Mitchell's music request, we are going to play him out on some lo-fi hip-hop. The artist is Akira the Don, featuring Elon Musk, and you can find more of his music on YouTube. Search for the album Optimistic and Wrong, Meaning Wave. Enjoy.
Well, the argument for the simulation, I think, is quite strong. Because if you assume any improvements at all over time, any improvement, 1%, 0.1%, just extend the time frame, make it 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. Civilization, if you're very generous, civilization is maybe 7 or 8,000 years old. If you count it from the first writing. There's nothing. There's nothing. If you assume any rate of improvement at all, then games will be indistinguishable from reality. Or civilization will end. One of those two things will occur. Anyway, I don't want to sound like things are too dark, because I think you kind of have to be optimistic about the future. There's no point in being pessimistic. It's just too negative. Doesn't help. You know, I think you want to be... I mean, my theory is you'd rather be optimistic. I'd rather be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right. Than pessimistic and right. Than pessimistic and right. But I'd rather be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right. Than pessimistic and right. Than pessimistic and right. At least we're on that side. Because if you're pessimistic, you're just going to be miserable. Enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey. Ultimately, even if we just sort of existed as humans forever, eventually that'd be like the heat death of the universe. A zillion years from now. Eventually it's going to end. It's just a question of when. So it really is all about the journey. The universe as we know it will dissipate into a fine mist of cold nothingness eventually. I think it's really just about how can we make it last longer. I'd rather be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right. Than pessimistic and right. Than pessimistic and right. But I'd rather be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right. Than pessimistic and right. Than pessimistic and right. But I'd rather be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right. Than pessimistic and right. Than pessimistic and right. But I'd rather be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right. Than pessimistic and right. Than pessimistic and right. I think most likely, this is just about probability, there are many, many simulations. These simulations are, you might as well call them reality, or you could call them the multiverse. And they're running on a substrate. That substrate is probably boring. When we create a simulation, like a game or a movie, it's a distillation of what's interesting about life. It takes a year to shoot an action movie. And then that told to slow down into 2 or 3 hours. So let me tell you, if you've seen an action movie being filmed, it's boring, super boring. It takes lots of takes. Everything's in a green screen. Looks pretty goofy. Doesn't look cool. But once you add the CGI and have great editing, it's amazing. So I think most likely, if we're a simulation, it's really boring outside the simulation. Because why would you make a simulation that's boring? It makes a simulation way more interesting than base reality. When you're in that virtual reality, which is only going to get better, where are you? Where are you really? You aren't anywhere. You're in the computer. Why do you think you're where you are right now? You might not be. Right now, you think you're in a studio in LA.
Akira.
You might be in a computer. Yeah. I'd rather be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right. Than pessimistic and right. Than pessimistic and right. But I'd rather be optimistic and